So let's have a look at what the sine rule says. And for those of you who were here in the last lesson, you'll be quite used to this. Basically, the whole of the last lesson was basically.
Mr. S, please unmute yourself.
Cool, I've done it. There we go. So the whole of the last lesson was about this idea that in a triangle, any triangle, if you take the length of one side, so let's do this, and you divide it by the sine of the angle opposite that, it will be equal to another side, so like B, over the sine of the angle opposite that, which would be down here. So we used that in the previous lesson. Now it turns out that the sine rule can also be written the other way around. Now, when we write it the other way around, we would write it with the sine of the angle on top and the side that is opposite below. So in this case, the sine of A, so that's down here, and the side that is opposite is here. And this is the way of writing the sine rule such that it makes it easier to find angles. Okay, so I'm going to do an example now, but I just want to make sure everybody give me a thumbs up if the basic idea of the sine rule makes sense to you. So it's not that, well, it's just the idea that there's this relationship between the pairs of angles and the sides that are opposite them. Now, if you have never seen this before, it's going to be easier for you to see this as an example. So let's do an example together. Okay, so in this particular triangle, we have unknown sides and unknown angles. Now, we're not after, in this question, we're not after the unknown side down here. It is unknown, and maybe we could work it out, but in this question, we are after the unknown angle. So notice how that's different. If you're solving for angles or if you're solving for sides, there will be a difference. So let's follow this process that I was saying. The sine rule says the sine of angle Y divided by 10 will be equal to, and now we have another choice. Now we need a pair of angles and sides opposite them, and it's almost obvious that this 64 down here and this 15 up here will be helpful. So we go the sine of 64 over 15. Now, what I want to point out is that when we're solving for angles, we write the sine of an angle on top as the numerator. When we're solving for sides, we write the side on top. And the sine rule is true both ways, but you have to be consistent. So if you're writing angles on top on the one side, you also have to write angles on top on the other side. You cannot do one of each. But if you can decide on what to start with. Okay. So let us now look at how to find the sine of Y. The problem we have is we need to get this thing by itself. And so what I'm going to do first is I multiply both sides by 10. And if I multiply both sides by 10, and you don't always have to show this, but this is essentially what's happening. You knock out that 10 and you get left with 10 sine 64 over 15. That is still not the answer. The answer that I'm looking for is this angle Y from back in the beginning. So this is where I need to use the inverse sine command on our calculator. On your calculator, when you go shift sine, you get sine of -1. And what we're going to do now to get this, in fact, let me first check you got this first bit right. I want everyone to write in the chat, what are you getting for this part over here? Let's just check what you're getting to first make sure we've got that number, and then we can find Y. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time, and then when you're able to get the value of the big block, put that in the chat. And I'm going to do the same here. Okay, so watch out here. I'm first getting 0.599196. I'm not getting the angle yet. In order to get the angle is going to be the next, or you can do it in one step, but I just wanted to check you guys were getting the correct number. Okay. Now, what we should do is we don't write this down normally. We actually just do it in one big step. So we go y equals, and we go shift sine, and we're going to type this thing in our calculators, or whatever the answer was from before. And let's just see what we get for our answer. So we're going to go, and now we're getting the angle. So shift sine, and then let's have a look and see what you get for your answer there. It's 10. 4. What are we getting for that answer there, guys? I see Bulungisa has got an answer already. Pafano's got an answer. So and then we should be getting 36.81 degrees. Okay. Now, again, you don't have to do the intermediate step. I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that you have to move the 10 across first, and then you have to use inverse sine to get y. And so in summarizing, the answer for y is going to be 36.81 degrees. Okay, give us a thumbs up if you feel okay with how if you're feeling good, and then I'm going to move on. If you need to take a screenshot, you can do that now. And then I'm going to move on to the next question. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Let's move to the next question. So in this question, I want you to find me the size of angle Q. And I'm not saying anything more than, well, in fact, I'm going to ask someone to come online and help me. But for now, why don't you try and start by writing out the initial statement? I'll give you one tip. You start by writing the sine of Q, and then you can have a missing space here, a missing space here, a missing space here. See if you can fill out those blocks, and then ask yourself, can you try and get to find the size of the angle Q using the sine rule? Okay, and then if you have a question and you'd like to raise your hand to ask your question, now is a great time while students are working on that. And in fact, if anybody's able to do this and you're willing to share your answer now, why don't you raise your hand? So just pop your hand up, and I would love a student to tell me what is going to go in these 3 blocks. So there's 3 blocks missing. What is going to go? If someone can come online and maybe give us a hint, because there could be students who are stuck, then a little bit of a hint from the class would be awesome. So we'll just, if someone has raised their hand, just you can unmute them. Let's have a look. Who wants to give us a hint as to how to go about this? Aha, Lee. Yes, Lee. How's it going, Lee?
Hello, sir. I'm good. And
what have you got?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, it's gonna be sine Q over 8 centimeters.
Okay.
And then there's gonna be sine 104 over 15 centimeters.
Perfect. Now, the next step what do you think the next step's going to be?
The next step, we obviously need to clear out the 8, the denominator for sine cube. So he times both sides by 8.
Perfect. I'm going to stop you there for now, but thank you so much, Lee. So I'm going to leave what Leah said is you multiply both sides by 8 to get rid of this 8 here. And so now we have to think about, okay, well, how do we write sine q? So, basically what's going to end up over here on this side? And then what's the final step to get q? And then once you've managed to do that, pop your answer in the chat. But thank you. Yeah, that was a really good tip, Lee. I think you've led us in the right direction there. So I was thinking there's going to be an 8 here, a sine 104 here, and a 15 here. But that is not the q. The q value, I need to do something else. So I've got this bit over here, but in order to get what q is, okay, you are going to go shift sine, and it basically looks like that. And then you're going to basically take the answer that you got from above, whatever the answer was from up there, and use that. And I'll put this in here. Q is going to be equal to, you're going to get, so shift. And then it's going to be and we get 31.16. Okay. So we should be getting for our answer 31.16 degrees, which, when you think about it, if this one at the top is 104, it makes sense. And this one over here, okay, let's have a quick look. Yeah, the scale is not perfect, but that is in the realm of possibility. Yeah. All right. Now, I just want to give a quick vote on pacing. So if we're going at a good pace for you guys, give a thumbs up. If it's going a little bit quick, give us a thumbs down. And just take a screenshot now if you need to, just so we can get a sense of how the group is feeling. And also remember, Lebo is there to help you. So if you need some help, we can use that. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Calculate the size of angle ABC. Now, there should be a little hat on top of this. Basically, what they're asking for is what is the size of this angle over here? So over to you guys. Time for you to shine brightly. See if you can write down that first step. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to write down that first step. And then for those who are feeling a bit unsure, I will give you some guidance. But I think you just think about what the sine rule says if you're finding angles. So you're trying to find the angle. So what do you write down first? And then what are the steps you need to follow after that? Okay. Okay, so the first step is going to be to write down the sine of B. And what's opposite the sine of B? It's 20. And then the other combination is going to be the sine of 60 over 18. So that is step one. That is expressing the sine rule for this triangle. And what we're trying to find is a missing angle, which is sitting inside of this bit here. Now, can you do the next step? And then when you have, and you got to your final answer, I'll pop it in the chat and I'll know that we'll know where we stand for now. So it feels like the next thing I have to deal with is the 20. So I'll get, oh, that's quite a big. Sine of b is 20 times the sine of 60 over 18. And then to get the angle B, or in this case, it's ABC, we need to go shift sine, and then we need to do whatever the answer was above it. So basically, whatever we got for that answer there, or you can just type it straight into your calculator, and let's see what everyone gets. So shift sine, and then okay, and you should be getting equals to 74.21 degrees. Okay. So as you can see, the good news about this tool is the sine rule. If you've got a pair of a side and an angle, and you've got one other piece of information, you can always find the side opposite that. Okay, so that is looking really good from where I am standing, and I'll give you a moment to take a screenshot if you need to. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. But again, if you have a question, raise your hand, and if you let us know if it's going too fast. Let us do a multiple choice question together. So I'm giving you this triangle up in the top, and there's a bits of information, and you have to tell me which of the 4 options is a correct way of writing the sine rule if you're trying to find this angle y up here. Let's see what you guys think. They all look kind of similar, so you have to take your time to just look at them and think, is there... So if I was starting, I'd start with the sine of y over 7. So actually, the only one that has the sine of y over 7. Okay, well, and let's just make sure we write it out. So, and then I'd go the sine of 34 over 8. Now, at the moment, the only one that makes sense is going to be A. So that's that one over there. Okay, and if I look at the chat, I see Ntombi, Laron, Bulungisa, William, Sotile, Zenade, Ovayo, Bokang have all agreed with me. And so, yeah, it feels like that's looking good. Okay, you're doing so well. Let's just keep rolling, guys. Okay, it looks a little bit harder now. Step 2. So, well, actually, it's not that much harder. I think you'll be okay on this. But can you answer this multiple choice question? Sure, guys, you just it's you're doing rather well. And so, you know, I don't want to go too fast, but what I'm seeing is that this is really making sense to you and that we can carry on. So the correct answer for this is that you have to deal with the 7 and you multiply the 7 on the other side. And so the correct option is going to be D. That's it. And so that's how you would use the sine rule in this case. Well done. Yes, well done, everyone. Well, you know what? I think that this last bit, well, let's do it. Let's see if you can. It's good to see different ways of writing it, and also realize that if there are more words, it's not always more scary necessarily. So, which of the following is the correct final step to put into your calculator? Which of those options? It looks to me like you've got this. So let me turn up the heat a little bit. Okay, so the correct answer for this one, I can see William, Maria, Ovayo, Fuzlin, we all agree the correct option is going to be B. And that's because you just take what's called the inverse sine to get rid of this and get the y by itself. And so that's the last step that you would use. Guys, like if we keep going like this, we're gonna get through everything. Chop chop. Okay, I feel like that is a little bit I feel like you can handle something a bit harder than that. Let's try this one. So this is from the series of steps you go through. I want to know, Adam is working on a problem. When he types into his calculator and he gets to that line, now, a lot of you are actually not going to be doing this because your calculator is going to do it for you. But let's just see if you can get the correct answer for what this will be. So sine of 56 divided by 7 times by 4. And you should be getting option B. Awesome, 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 awesome. So let us keep going. I'm not going to do this one because I feel like you've got that. Let us find one. We can't do that one yet. No, we can. That one. Can we do that one? No, not yet. We need the cos rule for that, so we're not going to use that one. Okay, before we have our brain break, why don't you try and do this one? And basically, you have to find which of these is going to be the value of x. Over to you guys, and then I want to see you vote. So find me the missing angle, and then choose the correct option from below. Over to you guys. And then I think we've definitely deserve our break because we've just flown through these. So I think you're pretty comfortable with that first step. And then a second step that would look like this. And then the last step. Okay. X is going to be equal to whatever that stuff was above. And you're quite right. We should be getting, it's going to be the 53. So it's going to be step A over here. So if you type it into your calculator, what you're going to see, so there is a bit of rounding that's happening here, but you're going to get around 53.02. And just try and rather type this whole thing into your calculator so that it does it for you. We'll ignore the significant figures, and the correct option over here is A. Okay, guys, you've done really, really well. And I'm going to, because you've done really, really well, I'm going to give you some of the next level type questions after the break. But what I want to do now is I want you to stand up and stretch. And so if you could just turn your cameras on, we would love to see the beautifulness that is you guys. And if you could just show us your favorite stretch, I'm going to stretch as well. And let's just give our brains a brief break before we head into phase 2 of this lesson. Okay. And then Lebo, if you could just please tell me which students are shining brightest, that would be awesome. Kaylin, I know you want to stretch. Zotile, I know you want to stretch. Show us your best stretch. Ruth, let's do it, guys. Let's do it, because we know if you feel connected as a community, you're going to work harder. And so let's build some of that community spirits. And so
I see Lee, I see William.
Let's have a look.
Don't
it's like anything.
Maria.
You know, like looking good, guys, looking good. Yeah. Yes, and talk, look at that lovely smile. Yo. So, you know, like you have a running buddy, and then it helps you run. Like we're like your maths buddy. So, and so you need to lean on the strength of your community, guys. Yeah, Lee looking awesome there.
Fantastic. Lee was doing some dances pose there, like.
Awesome. Okay, you know how this is? We always like to do a little brain break. So, over to you guys. There we go. Okay. Let's keep the appropriate conversation in the chat there, please, everyone. Okay. Cool. So, tell me what a sandwich plus a milli. Oh wait, be careful. There's 3 millis and 2 millis and all sorts of things going on here. So, ask yourself in this first question, what's 1 milli? Or, you know, because and in this one there's 3. So just be careful of that. Like there's 2 pizzas in the one below, there's 1 pizza here. So in the first question, you have to ask yourself, how much is the value of 1 milli? And I think someone will have got it by now. So corn is 12, but each of them is 6, if that makes sense. Like that's 6, that's 6, 6. Okay. Now, obviously it's 6 and 6 is 12 here. So in total it's 12. But then in total this, so let's go 12. This is going to be 18. This is going to be 18. So I'm just showing you how I got that. Now, what is a pizza going to be? So this is a little bit harder today. Let's see if we can. So definitely got that right. So that's 18. So 12 times, it's going to be in the ballpark. Like, so 12 times 6 would give us 60, 72. Wouldn't quite get us there. What about 7? Maybe try some numbers. So Bufano, I think you're on the right track. Yeah, because you can tell it couldn't, a pizza couldn't be 2 and it couldn't be 3. It had to be something a bit bigger. Hey, yeah. So a pizza is 7, which means this is going to be 14 because there's 2 pizzas. Okay, so now we have to figure out how much 4 sandwiches are and then help us get 5 sandwiches. So this is, I definitely took it up a notch, Lebo. Yo, in this one.
Yes.
So think about it. What's 4 sandwiches going to be? So there's been some suggestions that 8 times 18 plus 14. Yes. So this is going to be, each of these is 8. No, wait, sorry. All of them together is 8 because there's 4 of them. So this whole thing is 8, which means each of them is going to be 2, which means each of those is going to be 2. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, which means this is 12. Okay, what is my final answer going to be? Wow, guys, I gave you a tough one today. So the final answer is going to be 18 times 14 plus 12. I get 300 and, oh, so everyone's getting different answers here. I get 336, guys. Have a look. Why is everyone getting 264? Oh, 14. No, that's correct. This is 18. And this over here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's have a look. And then we must get back to the maths. Everyone says 264. Did I do something wrong? 18 times 14 is 252 plus 12 is 264. I absolutely did do something wrong. Okay, the correct answer is 264. 264. And you get that by going 18 times 14, which is 252 plus 12, because there's 6 sandwiches, which gives you 264. Okay. So I think we've had our brains broken in this kind of normal brain break, but let's get back to the rest of it. And I hope you enjoyed our little food pizza evening thing.
Mr. Is, please lower your camera.
Oh, yes. Thanks. Cool. So what I want to do, actually, let's go to this one over here. This is a little bit harder. And then we're going to talk about something called the ambiguous case for the sine rule. So in this, we've got 15 minutes or so left. Let's make sure that we consolidate our learning. And I want to ask you this question. Now, in this question, I'm asking you for the unknown angle, which is over here. Now, I want you to think about what have you learned about in addition to today that might help you work out what that is. So I'm going to give you some time. I think most of you would feel comfortable working out this, but then what about the angle next to it? Let's give you some time to do that. So I think sine of b over 9 would be equal to the sine of 37 over 7. And so you would start by trying to find b. But once you've done that, you need to find the thing next door. Would anybody like to come online and just give us a little hint here? So how are you going to go about getting to your answer? So let's do the steps. So we're going to get the sine of b is equal to 9 times the sine of 37 over 7. And so then b is going to be equal to shift sine and then it's going to be times by 9. So what I get is I get 50.69 for this one over here. Let me actually make that a bit. So basically my b over here is that, but then the one on the other side is going to be 180 minus 50.69, which gives me minus 69, 129.31 or 129. So just take a moment to see that you give us a thumbs up if you understood that one. Give us a thumbs down if you were a bit unsure, because I think I might need to explain a bit more here. So I started by finding this one in the corner here. Once I got this one, in order to find the missing angle CBY, I then had to go 180 minus whatever the angle was there. And so you get this one here. Okay, so let me go through that one a little bit again. So stage 1 was just to find the green angle over here. And that's what I started by going sine of b over 9 is sine of 37 over 7. Then I had to get the 9 across. to the other side, which you can see it suddenly appeared. And then I didn't write that intermediate step, but I should have got 50.69, and check that you would get that. So if you're unsure, check for yourself. If you go, you go shift sine, shift sine. You should get that. Yeah. Okay. You get 0.77, but then did you times it by 9, Kevin? So you go from there. So what I'm going to suggest is all that you did in this question was we found the step over here, and then we said 180 minus that step to get that one over there. Okay, cool. Let us move on to something called the ambiguous case. Now, guys, there is a bit of a warning with using the sine rule. When you use the sine rule, sometimes it's possible to get two answers. And so in the case that you can clearly see one of the angles doesn't seem right, if it seems too big or too small, when you get an answer, so say, for example, in this situation, I get A is equal to angle 30. It's also possible to get an answer of 180 minus whatever that original angle is. And the reason this happens is that the sine of A is the same as the sine of 180 minus A. So you're going to see this in the question now, but just realize that when we use the sine rule to find angles, there is a possibility of a second answer. And the way we get the second answer, if the first answer is this one, the second answer will always be 180 minus whatever the first answer was. And you need to use the diagram to decide which of the two answers makes the most sense in the diagram. Okay, but let's do this question so you can actually see it in action. So I want you to find me angle C. I want you to find the angle C using this triangle. And I want you to use the sine rule. So step one. Now, what are we going to get for angle C according to your calculation so far? Okay, so in this case, you guys should be getting 41.61. Now, what I want to point out, it's not immediately obvious in this particular question because C is an acute angle, but the other possibility, when you use the sine rule to find an angle, there is another possible answer. And the other possible answer is just going to be 180 minus 41.61. And so in this case, 180 minus 41.61 would be 138.39. Now, if you visually look at the triangle, you can tell that of these two options, it's obviously going to be 41.61. But there may be situations when the triangles look different, where if C was an obtuse angle, if it was greater than 90, then that would be the option. I saw a hand go up. Umukalani, you want to unmute yourself?
Good evening, sir.
Hey.
I just wanted to ask, why did you get 41.61? Because I don't have it. I have 41.29. Sorry. So
okay, so let's go through first of all, see what you get. Go 11 times the sine of 25 divided by 7. Do you get 0.664, something like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now if you go shift sine, whatever your answer was before, you should then get 41.61. Do you know how to use the answer button on your calculator?
Yes, sir. I put 0.66 in my calculator. I ended at the second decimal
but
number.
did you go shift sine? Did you go shift sine? So the sine minus 1. I think you may have forgotten that.
Oh, I think I forgot to do that.
Okay, no, that's good. That's exactly why you're here. No problem. Okay, now it just shows you how important, guys, this is what I love about it. Like, can you see how that little thing, just if you lose your concentration, and it's so helpful for us all to remember that maybe we should have written out the extra step where we write C equals sine minus 1 of whatever the answer was above here. Okay. Let's do one more today. And all I'm going to ask you to do is in this question, I want you to work out the two possible answers that the sine, and then to identify which of the two answers is the correct one for this. But we're using the sine rule. We're trying to find angle L. I want you to generate two answers and then decide which of the two fit the situation. Okay. William, yeah. Do you want to go ahead and ask a question? I'll unmute you.
Yes, sir. I want to ask that once we calculate the angle, and for example, we have two answers, but the two answers are so close to each other. They are very close to each other that you don't know which one to choose. What would you have to do in that case?
Okay, so when you use the sine rule, the first answer you get, okay, is always going to be the acute angle. Essentially it's going to be the acute angle. All I wanted to show you in the second part of this lesson is you can get a second answer, and the second answer you get with going 180 minus the first answer. Now, if in your drawing, the angle you're looking at is not a small angle, if it's greater than 90, then you know it must be the second option. Does that help?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay, but at the moment, we've only been playing with acute angle triangle, so that hasn't come up yet, but I just want to kind of bring it to your attention for now. Okay, so Kaylin and Kevin, I see you were doing exactly the same thing as Amukalani. You're right, you get 0.664 for this bit, but remember, the final step is you now need to go shift sine 0.664, and that will give you your answer that was on the screen. So shift sine 0.664, and that's when you're going to get your 41.6. Okay, now, given the two options, all I've been introducing in this last bit is that when you use the sine rule, there are actually two possible right answers. And most of the time, it's just going to be the smaller one. But if the angle you're looking at in your triangle is greater than 90, it could be a second option. And that's what I'm showing you how to get it. But it's very easy. You just go 180 minus. Okay, let's have a look at this last one, and then we're going to bring the lesson to a close. So we get the sine of L over 13.5 is equal to the sine of 56 over 16.8. Then we are going to move this to this side. I should probably be using a different color, but okay, now if we stop there, we're not going to get the correct answer. This will give us a number of some kind. In fact, I can even, so shift, or not shift, let's go 13.5 times the sine of 56 divided by 16.8. Over here, you get 0.66 and so on. But that's not the L you're after. The L you're after is taking shift sine of this value, 0.66 and so on. And normally we do it in one step. So I'm going to go shift sine. I hit the answer key on my calculator, and you should get 41.77 degrees. And that is what the angle over here is. But the little bit of new stuff I've introduced is that when you are using the sine rule to find angles, there is a possibility of a second answer. And if the drawing, if it looks wrong with your drawing, then your second answer will just be 180 minus 41.77. And so you would get 138.23. But guys, if I'm honest, 80% of the time, it's always going to be the first answer.